All right, hello everyone. So I want to go over our course syllabus here. I'm not going to go over every single section. I more just want to go through and point out some of the more important points. So this is obviously you're in the Chem3B course, and your section is either 26715 or 26716, and you're going to want to check WebAdvisor and figure out which section you're in. It's going to impact which discussion you participate in, okay? The lecture portion of the course is completely asynchronous, right? And then your labs are in person either on Tuesdays from 2 to 4:50, or if you're in that other section, the section ending in 16, you're going to be on Thursdays from 2:30 to 5:35 p.m. Okay, so again, just check your section number. That will dictate when you show up on campus for lab. Again, just to note that this week, week 1, we're actually going to be meeting over Zoom, not in person. Okay. All right, so prereqs, if you're registered, you've already made it here, okay? One of the things, what I want to point out here in this welcome message is, please read that over on your own. But again, I'm just going to go through and do some highlights here. Again, the lecture portion of the course is asynchronous. What's going to happen is each week a new module on campus is going to be open that's going to have lecture videos. After each video, you're going to have some sort of a participation assignment like a quiz or a discussion that will test you on what you just learned. The lab portion of the course will be in person. So again, if your section ends in 15, that's Tuesdays at 2. And if it ends, oops, that's an error, that should say 16. Then it meets at Thursdays at 2:30, okay? Office hours and tutorial center I'll get to here in a second, but just again, what you can expect from the lecture portion is there are going to be videos. You'll take notes on those videos just as if we were in person getting a lecture. There will be assignments at the end of those videos that you'll complete. We're going to follow along the textbook pretty closely because since we're at home, that's going to be a pretty valuable resource. The textbook is just yet another explanation, more sample problems, all that sort of good stuff. And we'll also have an online homework system. I'll get to that here in a second. COVID policies actually this week in lab will be, again, meeting over Zoom. We'll discuss COVID policies in particular. The one thing that I do want to point out is that masks are mandatory all over Fresno City College campus, and they're certainly going to be mandatory within the labs. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, how to contact me. So first of all, here's my email address, just my name, Nicholas Corsipius at fresnocitycollege.edu. The office hours will be held over Zoom, and there is a link on Canvas. It's actually like right below the syllabus quiz that you're going to take after watching this video. I will be in those office hours on Tuesday from 12 to 2 and on Thursdays from 12:30 to 2:30. Basically, you can log on to Zoom between those times and I'll always be there. However, I also will make myself available in the off hours if you contact me via email, okay? So basically, if you're ever stuck, please send me an email. I could maybe answer your question right then and there, or we'll be happy to hop on Zoom and go over it. Usually, students that take advantage of this, we can probably bang out whatever your question is in like 5 minutes or something like that. But yeah, just don't hesitate to reach out to me. There's no point in sitting there and banging your head against the wall being stuck. Just contact me. That's what I'm here for. You can go over the course description, the course objectives, and the SLOs on your own. Hopefully you guys got the textbook that we're going to be using, the Timberlake from the bookstore, as well as you'll need a lab manual for our in-person labs. And then the textbook that you bought through the bookstore will come with an ad code for mastering chemistry. This will be the online homework system that we're going to use. And as far as attendance goes with lecture, I'm going to take your attendance based on whether you're interacting with our Canvas page during that particular week. Okay, so it's asynchronous. As long as you've interacted with the Canvas page in a week, you're good. During exams will actually be held during the lab periods. I'll point that out here in a second. Exam attendance is mandatory, obviously. You got to be there to take your exam. As well as the attendance to the in-person lab sessions are mandatory. Because of COVID, policies will have some makeup exams scheduled in there because obviously we don't want anybody coming to lab when they're sick. But nonetheless, that's not an excuse to miss a whole bunch of labs. So if at the end of the semester you have 2 weeks worth of lab assignments missing, you will not be able to pass the course. And again, we'll talk a little bit more specifically about the COVID policies in lab this week. So important dates to keep in mind. August 29th would be your last day to drop the class without a W on your transcript. If you get off to a rough start in this class, that might be the best way to go. It's very hard to recover if you've fallen behind. And so if you drop the class before August 29th, there won't be any record of it on your transcript. You have until October 8th to drop the class and get a W on your transcript. If you're enrolled in my class after October 9th, you will get a grade in this course. You have to get a grade in the course. All right, holidays. Actually, the more important ones are for you Thursday labs because Veterans Day and Thanksgiving will get you out of lab that week. What's going to happen, and I'll show you this when you see the schedule, is the Tuesdays of those weeks will actually be makeup labs. So they'll be reserved for people who missed lab due to COVID. In terms of participation and engagement, I'll go over the specific types of assignments when we get to the assignment section. Let's look through our calendar real quick. You see that roughly speaking, we cover a chapter a week. Okay, and then on weeks that there is an exam, there's no new lecture material that's going to be given. Okay. Actually, the nice thing about the 3B course versus the 3A course is we have a little bit less material to cover, so we can space it out a little bit more. Our lab schedule, the one thing that I want to point out here is notice that on, say, week 4, you will be taking exam 1 in lab. So if you're the Tuesday labs, that'll be on the 31st. If you're the Thursday labs, that will be on September 2nd, but your exams will be taken in lab, right? So again, have that the 8th week, 13th week, etc. Okay, so lecture exams will be administered in person in lab. Okay, these are sort of all set in stone, right? So you'd have the date and the time of these exams already established. There should be no problems there. Another thing I want to point out is, again, the 11th is the Veterans Day holiday, the 25th is the Thanksgiving Day holiday, and so we have a makeup lab on those Tuesdays. So anybody who missed a lab for a COVID-related absence prior to that, you can come in on either the 9th or the 23rd and make up that lab. Okay. All right, types of assignments. Each week, there's going to be several assignments that will be due, right? Okay, so first of all are what I call participation assignments. So after each lecture video, there's going to be a quiz or a discussion or an assignment that's there to help you practice that particular material. These participation points are kind of like freebies as far as I'm concerned, right? So, for example, if there's a quiz on hydrocarbon nomenclature, some of that stuff is very easily Googleable kind of answer. The quiz isn't meant to be hard, it's meant to be extra practice. And you'll have an infinite amount of attempts. So you can just try over and over and over again. And so where I'm going with this is, let's say that you take this participation quiz on naming of hydrocarbons, and the first time you have to cheat a little bit because you don't remember, how to go about naming this particular compound. Well, that's, whatever. The points aren't made to be hard to get. The whole point is that then a few days later, you'll go back in and take that same quiz as practice to make sure that you actually learn that material, okay? So the purpose of these assignments isn't to be tricky. I'm assuming everybody's going to get full credit, but they're there to be practice with the materials to make sure that you guys have mastered that material. We will be using the Mastering Chemistry online homework system. That will be 10 points per chapter. So there will be a 10-point Mastering Chemistry homework problem set for each chapter. Each one of your lab assignments will be worth 30 points. Okay, so for example, our Experiment 3, reactions of hydrocarbons, the associated lab assignments will total 30 points for that. Exam, we'll have 4 exams throughout the semester. You saw on the previous page where those will be scheduled. Those will be 100 points each. And then the final exam will be that ACS final exam. That's a standardized exam taken across the country. That will be worth 200 points. DSPS, if you believe that you have a disability or need any sort of DSPS accommodations, please contact them and they reach out to me, and we'll keep all of that confidential and all that good stuff. Make sure you do that within the first 2 weeks of class. Okay. Grading scale. So pretty straightforward. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B. The one thing I want to point out is that I round to the ones place. So that means that an 89.5 rounds up to a 90, but an 89.4 rounds down to an 89. Okay, so at the end of the semester, I always have students that are on the border there that are like, can't you just round my grade? I will absolutely round your grade to the ones place, but I'm going to follow all the normal rules of mathematics. Okay, so that's how that works. The approximate grade breakdown will be 35% of your grade will be exams, 30% lab assignments, 15% on the final exam, 10 homework, 10 participation. These are approximate because unlike what may be different in some of your other courses is I'm not going to weight assignments differently. A point in my class is a point, meaning that a point on your lab assignment is the same thing as a point on an exam, is the same thing as a point on a homework. I think it makes it a little bit more straightforward. So there's no weighting that's going to happen in my grade book after the fact. All right, let's talk about makeups and late work. So first of all, exams cannot be made up. Those are set in stone, right? We have the schedule already. Everybody can put those in their calendar. If you have some sort of a catastrophic accident, some sort of a valid college-accepted excuse for missing the exam, then your exam grade will be replaced by an average of all your other exams. However, if you miss more than one exam, you're going to get a 0 for those missed exams. Okay, you can't be missing exams, bottom line. I mean, I hope that that's pretty straightforward. The final exam, likewise, set in stone, cannot be made up or rescheduled. So make sure you guys have that in your calendars. Attendance to lab is mandatory, right? There's only one lab per week, and we have a few of them that are dedicated to exams. So each one of those experiments are really important. If you miss more than 2 periods, 2 labs, you will not be able to pass the course. Okay. Now, that said, because we are in the middle of a pandemic, if you have a COVID-related absence, then there are those 2 makeup days on the 9th and the 25th that you can come in and reschedule those labs. Okay. You just have to make sure to clear that with me 1 week in advance, and they're only available to students who miss a lab for a COVID-related reason. You can't just not show up to lab. Late work. So participation assignments, those are the ones like after a lecture video, you take a quiz, as well as any lab assignments. You can turn those in late, but you're going to automatically incur a 10% penalty per day late. Okay? This penalty is built into the Canvas gradebook. It's not something that I assess. So the bottom line is it's not going to be waived at any point or anything like that. If you have a really good reason for missing a participation assignment, that's fine. Turn it in late. You'll get the vast majority of the credit, okay? The reason that this policy is the way it is because if you miss 1 or 2 assignments throughout the semester and you turn them in late, it's going to have almost no impact on your score. If you're chronically turning in assignments late, well, yes, those penalties will add up, but that's how that goes, right? You got to get your work in on time. After 7 days, an assignment closes and late work is no longer accepted, okay? I also don't accept any late work during finals week. At finals week, everybody's trying to turn in, the 7 assignments that they didn't do throughout the semester. It's not going to work that way. Make sure that you stay on top of your work. Because of the Mastering Chemistry system, I can't accept those late either. Extra credit is something that if I deem it necessary, I might decide to offer a few extra credit assignments throughout the semester, but I don't just like hand them out like candy because people want to improve their grade. You know, you got to stay on top of your grade from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester. It's not one of those things where on week 17 you realize you need 10 points or, you know, you're not going to get that C. Got to be on top of stuff throughout the semester. And that kind of takes us to class norms. You know, what I'll say is that the class is fairly tough. I mean, if you guys are here, you guys have sort of put in some dues. I know you can do some hard work. You passed Chem3A. Nonetheless, it's a challenging course. There's a lot of material covered, and each thing builds off of the previous thing that we learned, right? So it's something that you really got to stay on top of. You know, the one thing that I will say is the difference between a C student and an A student is not intelligence. It actually is responsibility and commitment, right? An A student is a student that puts in the week every week for 18 weeks straight. A C student is somebody who checks out halfway through and then tries to catch up. They put assignments off to the last minute, et cetera, okay? So being a responsible student who does their work as they go, set aside time each week, that's how you'll be successful in the course. Academic dishonesty, familiarize yourself with the college's academic dishonesty policy. The bottom line is ever since we moved online, cheating has gotten kind of ridiculous, and we take that very seriously. If we find it, we will prosecute you to the fullest extent. We will let the vice president know. It will go on your record, all that good stuff. It's not something that we're going to tolerate. I don't know why y'all think it's cool just because we're online, but it's not something we're going to deal with. And all you're going to do is piss me off because then I got to fill out some paperwork. Okay, so please, you know, have some integrity in your education and don't try to do anything dishonest. Last thing, so again, our final exam is set in stone in terms of the date and time. The only thing we don't have is the room number. I'll have to let you guys know about that closer too. And then the last thing I want to say is that you guys have a lot of support services available to you just by virtue of being a Fresno City College student. There's health services, both physical and mental health services, which is very important, especially, you know, in the time that we're in this pandemic. If you guys find your mental health slipping, you guys are, you know, falling into bad habits with your sleep schedule or alcohol or drug consumption, any of that sort of stuff, you should reach out to some of these mental health counselors. Likewise, by virtue of being a Fresno City College student, you guys have access to the Tutorial Center, which has a ton of resources available for you to help you pass a class, right? So you can always reach out to me, come to my office hours, reach out via email, all that good stuff. Please, I encourage you to do so. But there's also tutors at the Tutorial Center that are dedicated to teaching you guys chemistry, so you can reach out there. And then lastly, anybody that's experiencing any food insecurity, there's the RAM Pantry on Fresno City College campus, which is basically like a food bank where you can come in and get food, no questions asked. Okay.